Since visiting Elkhart back in June, I've been posting quite a few videos about Embassy. In one of my posts, I received a comment about Embassy and pricing. The commenter wondered why Embassy just didn't put an MSRP on the website with each model. I thought this was a good question and responded to their comment. But the more I thought about it, the more I believe this wasn't a good question. It was a great question. I've had people ask about prices and costs before, and it seems it's the first thing on their mind when it comes to motorhomes. This is an important consideration. RVs are a big investment, and Class Bs are pretty pricey. As far as I can tell, the reasoning is, if you're looking to buy a car or a house, they have prices on them, right? So why doesn't Embassy just tell me the price on the website like other RV manufacturers? Their reasoning seems sound, but there are a few things to consider here, like how prices are set in the first place and also how RVs are built. The first thing to consider is MSRP, Manufacturer's Suggested Retail Price. This is sometimes called list price or retail price, but what is that exactly, and how does a manufacturer arrive at that figure? Here's an example from one RV manufacturer. Notice the list price is $164,228. This price does not include any options, taxes, or dealer costs, but remember that number. Now here's a list of that same manufacturer's RVs that are actually for sale. Do you notice the difference? None of these are listed at that high MSRP. Not one. And this is before you start negotiating a price, which you should be able to bring down at least a little bit. So what was the point of an MSRP that no one actually sells the RV for? As a lot of lifers know, we've been researching RVs for a couple of years now, and I found that dealers of some brands of RVs were always discounting the MSRP by a very specific percentage. One brand seemed to always be discounting by exactly 10%, while another was always discounted by 25%. Now, how can dealers that are miles apart and even in different states always discount exactly the same? What an amazing coincidence, don't you think? The real reason, of course, is MSRP has no basis in reality. It isn't determined by build costs or materials used or staff salaries or anything else. The imagined discount that dealers offer you is a price that is cheaper than a price called MSRP. A figure that is simply made up by the manufacturer. It isn't a discount. It's just what the dealer wants to sell it for so they can still make a profit. It would be like me saying, this pen here is listed at $100, but I'm selling it today for only $29.95, over a 70% discount. Do you really think this pen is worth $100? Would you really pay $29.95 for it? Do you really think I'm discounting anything at all? Dealers are in the business to make money, which is just fine. They work, so they should make a profit from that work. But MSRP tells the buyer nothing about a dealer's costs. The MSRP was set by the RV manufacturer, not the dealer. I've found a great statement on our website, linked in the description below, that made it clear. Using suggested pricing methods often falls into direct conflict with competition theory. The use of the MSRP allows a manufacturer to set the price of a product, often higher than usual, with the potential for having an adverse effect on consumers and their wallets. Now, I'm not saying that every little cost that a dealer has to contend with needs to be somehow listed. I mean, I really don't care what their electric bill is. And I do understand that people are in the business to make money. But this isn't about that. This is about you, as a consumer, having no information on pricing whatsoever. All you have is that made-up MSRP. I don't see my local grocery store list everything in MSRP and then discount everything with some special deal. I'd know I'd be kind of miffed if I saw a head of iceberg lettuce with an MSRP of $5, but being sold at 50% off for only $2.50. What? You think getting 50% off is a good deal? I looked at the price for a head of iceberg lettuce. It was 99 cents. Less than half what the so-called 50% off price I quoted was. See how easy it is to get you to believe things are more expensive than they really are? And then make it look like you're getting a great deal with a so-called discount? And before you point out grocery stores have sales on items, that isn't the same thing as listing everything at some high price and then selling everything at some imagined discount. And then there's negotiating a better price. You think standing in checkout lines is long now? Think of what it would be if every customer had to haggle with the clerk on prices for each item in their cart. But that is exactly what you're expected to do at a vehicle dealership. Why? The whole idea of an MSRP is to get you in the mindset that the RV has a high upfront cost. That way, when you're working at negotiating a final price, the dealer has some leeway to give you discounts and special deals. They make their profit, and you go away feeling like you saved money. But in the end, you have no idea what their profit margin was or what any of their costs were or how the MSRP was determined in the first place. So, if MSRP has no bearing on reality, why list it at all since prices are not set by MSRP? That's a good question. Prices are set by supply and demand. Right now, summer of 2021, there is a very high demand for Class B RVs and a very low supply. So the prices are high, not because someone in some business office somewhere made up a price, but because people are willing to pay top dollar for an RV. So the answer is, there is no good reason to have MSRP listed at all since it has nothing to do with supply and demand. The second thing to consider is the difference between a custom-built RV and one that is mass-produced, or what I like to call off the rack. And this to me should be the most important determinant of price. When you go buy a shirt at a department store, you select a size and a color and a style, right? Does someone start to measure your neck size and arm length? No. You get a shirt off the rack, or one that is exactly the same as 1,000 other shirts sold to 1,000 other people. It fits okay, but it isn't custom made for you. If you have a big neck size like me, it's hard to find a good fitting long sleeve shirt. The ones that fit my neck tend to come with sleeves that are longer than my, well, admittedly short arms. I deal with this inconvenience because it's cheaper, and honestly, it's the easiest way to buy a shirt. Sure, I could go to a custom shirt maker, but I'd be paying a premium for the shirt. I'd have to go in and have them measure me, and since the shirt wasn't made beforehand, I'd have to wait who knows how long until the shirt was completed before I could go back and pick it up. But boy, it would fit great. Most RVs are built like the cheaper off-the-rack shirt. If you go to the most RV manufacturer websites, you see their models, and there are very specific layouts and features that don't deviate. You get the toilet it comes with, no choices. One model has one kind of battery system and another a different one. You don't get to swap them out. Sometimes you can get a few optional items like solar panels, but in the end, the model is built on an assembly line, much like off-the-rack clothing. Shirts may come in different colors, but they are all made the same. RVs may have a few optional features, but they are all built the same. Because of this, the manufacturer can set a standard price, the MSRP, for that model. These motorhomes are mass-produced. Manufacturers can build however many they need to send to dealers around the country, and do it quickly and cheaply, but usually skimp on build quality in the process. Not so with custom builds. Although custom builders may use some assembly line techniques, they can't advertise an exact price because it all depends on what you're adding to the van and how you want it designed. It's like choosing specific sleeve lengths, color styles, and materials used for a custom shirt. And with so many variables, custom-built RVs can easily cost $200,000 to $300,000 or more. They have a lot of options and designs, and some manufacturers will even let you design to your own specifications. You can't set a standard price for that, and you just can't compare them to mass-produced RVs. Embassy, being a controlled custom builder, is not nearly as high in cost as those fully customized vehicles, since you don't design a van from the ground up. There are a limited number of options, and then there are some custom things they can do. But even they can't give an exact price for their vans, and this is why. Part of the cost of an Embassy build is the chassis the RV is built on. Class B RVs are built on a van chassis, so Embassy buys those from van makers like Dodge and Mercedes or Ford. That cost comes from that van maker, not Embassy. Even though Embassy can get the chassis at a lower cost than you can, it still is up to those dealers to set a price for that model year and build. Embassy doesn't control that part, and that price changes depending on the model. So Embassy won't know that exact price until you order it. The great thing is, unlike other RV manufacturers, Embassy has the invoice and lets you know exactly what that cost is when you're ready to buy, and doesn't add to that price. See if you can get that information from any other RV manufacturer. The next variable is the build itself. In other words, what Embassy has to do to turn that empty chassis into an RV. These are things like adding sofas and tables and sinks and bathrooms and whatever. That is what you're charged for, and Embassy clearly shows you exactly what that charge is, unlike most manufacturers with a made-up MSRP. Now, I'm not saying Embassy is listing every single little part and what it costs them. Listing every nut and bolt would take away too much time and a lot of effort, and quite frankly, I don't care. But they are letting you know what the build-out charge is instead of just listing some overall MSRP price. And for us, that's really comforting to know. I don't feel like I have no clue what I'm getting into, unlike when I have to buy a car where the only thing I've got to go by is an MSRP, just like you would when looking at RVs. And of course, with a dealer, I have to take hours, if not days, in negotiations, trying to get the price down, never really knowing how low the price could actually get. Finally, there are optional items that can be added that don't normally come with a standard Embassy RV build. For instance, we wanted some things added from Ford, like heavy-duty mats. So that added to the chassis cost. But we knew exactly what that cost would be up front. We also wanted some extra things in our Embassy build, like a different toilet than the standard one. So that too added to the cost. But again, We knew exactly what those costs would be because we bought and paid for that toilet and had it sent to embassy to include in the bill. No surprises. And that's worth every penny to us. So why does an embassy list MSRP? Because they don't make up prices and have dealers discount them. You are charged what it costs plus some amount so embassy can make a profit, pay their staff, stay in business. And to us, that's the right way to run a business. We feel it's more fair and transparent than a so-called manufacturer's suggested retail price. Embassy is making a profit, absolutely. And that's why they're in business. That's why anyone is in business. Because they make a profit, they're able to pay salaries to their employees, pay their electric bill, and keep building great RVs. But they don't go around creating an artificial list price, then pretending to give you a discount. And that's the kind of business we want to work with. Why can't everyone do things that way? That's the real question. Be seeing you. Here's an example from one RV manufacturer. Notice now, here's a list that some manufacturers manufacture RVs actually for sale. But I'm selling it today for only $29.95. That's over a 75%. You get a shirt off the rack or one that is exactly the same as 1,000 other shirts sold at 1,000 other places for $1,000 or whatever. That all sucks. It would be me like, oh damn. I don't feel like I have to guess. I did it again. We also wanted some extra things in our embassy bill, and this is too fast. But we knew exactly what that would cost be. Boop, boop, boop. Over a 75% discount. It's not, it's 70%. So why do I keep saying 75% frickin'?